Alright, so the game that I'm about to cast right now is from a tournament. If you've been following Age of the Ring news and updates and such, you will know that there is an ongoing tournament at the moment, Caran-Lambar's Carnage Cup. And I think it's the biggest one versus one tournament, at least amongst the official ones that Age of the Ring has ever had. Lots of players, 32 in particular, and lots of good players as well. So I'm expecting a lot of good games, intense battles. And I'll try to commentate, cast on as many of them as I can, as much as time allows. But yeah, so I've been told that this was a pretty epic game. And yeah, let's just get straight into it. So on the top side of the map, we've got Anterias, and he's playing for the faction Mordor. And I would say he's gone for a pretty greedy build. He went for 3 slave farms into a troll cage. Let's see. So his opponent is Snens. Yes, that is Snens. And Snens hasn't gone for any fast barracks action either. He's also pretty slow in his development. Slow in the sense of like you can be slow in your development. That's fine in certain situations and certain matchups. But that's entirely situational. Like you can't say which strategy is better because there's no universal answer to it. Like fast barracks or more economy, there's no universal answer to that question because it entirely depends on the map, on the matchup, on the situation. So over here we see that Snens is really going overboard with this economy thingy, and he's spent 100 additional, resources on building an armory instead of a third furnace, and only after 5 furnaces he puts down his second clan setting. This isn't too bad for him, and Anterias' build is probably not too bad for him either, but only because both players went for a pretty slow start, pretty economical beginning. So yeah, Stance will hardly be able to take this down, but the Wildman spam begins, and a troll, a mountain troll, can be pretty successful in defending those. Defending these attacks, but not if Snens continuously pumps out units. But Snens, for some reason, immediately upgrades the clan setting to level 2. Huh. That is very, very strange to me. I guess he wants to deal with the troll with X-Throwers, but I'm not sure that's going to be very successful. I don't think X-Throwers deal that much damage to monsters. But we'll see, we'll see. So I think he was expecting something like this. So his 3rd battalion of Wildmen was actually pikes. He uses his war chant over here, but Anterias tries to save his Orcish stronghold by putting down Cracks of Doom, but he's not successful in saving them. So that is a relatively good start. That is a very good start. Scratch that. That is a very good start for Snens, and as he also got one of Anterias' builders. So Anterias is down to 2 farms. He's got 2 trolls up on the field, and 1 Orcish stronghold from which he can pump out the cheap units to counteract the spam. Alright, so Snens is still on 2 clan settings. Anterias is on 400 eco, while Snens is on 525, so obviously his eco is better. His army composition is looking alright right now. 1 battalion of kind of like I wanted to call them swordsmen wildmen, but I don't think they're wielding swords. I think it's like clubs or something. But this is gonna be hard to deal with. And a couple of seconds ago, while I was looking at Anterias' resources, he had a lot of it. I think he went for either the Nazgul or his putting down the eco at the moment. But yeah, these trolls, you cannot ignore them. If you ignore them, they're gonna take down your entire eco. But I think Snens doesn't really have much to deal with them. As I said, like, Snens has also put down 2 lumber mills. Damn, is this usually how Edain is played? Because I stopped playing Edain after 381, where, after they changed the build system to BFMU1. But I don't know, like this is a very, very greedy strategy by Snens, and his kind of miscontrolling over here doesn't really have the APM to control in multiple places. He might. I'm not saying he doesn't have it in general. He might actually have it, but making a mistake over here, obviously, which is kind of expected because it's a tournament match, and you know, during tournaments, players tend to be a little bit more nervous than usual. So let's not be too harsh on him. The extras actually deal decent-ish damage to trolls, but you can see the problem here, right? Like, he doesn't have cover for them. If he had at least one battalion of pikes and then the axe throwers, then that might have been like kind of sort of a counter to them, help him defend. But he lost a lot here. If we look at command points and such, Mordor doesn't really have that much either. Just these two trolls. Isengard already has Sharko on the field, and Sharko is going to be very successful in dealing with the trolls. And if Anterias loses this slave farm, that's going to be pretty dire for him. Indeed, he does lose it. And why did I say that it's going to be dire? Because this was one of the starting slave farms, and obviously it's very important to preserve as many of your starting resource structures as possible. But he's expanding on this side, building a forward, building an archer stronghold in a forward position, which is going to help him kind of control this side of the map and also organize some attacks on Snens' base. Snens' is that how you would call it? We'll just say Snens' base. Okay. But yeah, Mordor really doesn't have much on the field. Does have his first hero. Actually has had him for a while now, which is Gorbag. And Gorbag, I feel like, used to be a bit of a meme in previous patches. Because he didn't really have, like, his function is that of a hero killer, right? Basically all of his abilities are specifically tailored to help you kill enemy heroes. But he wasn't very effective at it. But now he has received some major buffs and has become almost, I dare say, a meta strategy against certain factions and certain matchups. A lot of Mordor players like going with Gorbag these days, and that's a valid choice because he's actually very good at killing enemy heroes, on the patch. Alright, so Anterias is continuing with his troll strategy, which I kind of approve of, so to speak. My stamp of approval is upon it, because it can be quite effective against Isengard. Isengard is obviously one of the strongest factions, generally in the mod, but it has, like any other faction, it has certain weaknesses. Certain units that it doesn't really deal well with, or certain phases in the game that it's not feeling too strong. And for Isengard, I would say that that type of units is monsters in general. A lot of people might disagree, and that's totally fine. We have different experiences in the game, and this is just my personal opinion. But yeah, so Snens is not abandoning his clan-statting strategy, basically, just spamming Wildman. And this used to be like, the meta play in 731. But those who have read the changelog will know that the extra damage was nerfed quite heavily, as well as their armor. So let's see how far this gets, how far this gets him. Okay, so in terms of command points and power points, Mordor has 8 after Cracks of Doom, and presumably he would like to go for the Slaves of Nirn farm buff, which can be a viable choice. Although I myself like to go with the left-hand side branch of the Mordor power tree these days. That can be incredibly powerful too. But yeah, so 575 eco, couple of lumber mills. Yeah, he's building his second one at the moment, and yeah, lots of action on the map so far. Pretty good game, I would say, so far. I'm enjoying watching it. And on the other hand, Snens is ahead in the PowerPoint department. Not in economy though, although his he has much more units on the field. He's also got a hero, but Anterias also has his Nazgul on the field, which I hope he didn't die because I can't see him on the mini map. Oh, there he is. Okay, yeah. So he was low health. So Anterias very wisely put him in the back of the base so that he can heal a bit. Yeah, so Anterias gets his tier 2 PowerPoint ability, Slaves of Nirn, and buffs this farm, which can be such a major power spike for Mortar. And Anterias is kind of insisting on the strategy of forward Orcish strongholds, which is not bad. Like, it can be a viable strategy for sure. This troll probably will not be accomplishing much because Snens has got Wolfgar on the field. And Snens is playing this game as if 8-0 hasn't been released at all. Like, this is pure 7-3-1 meta when the Wildman strategy used to be overpowered as hell. But that has been nerfed and fixed entirely, I would say. And the Isengard meta is completely different right now. Let's talk about the map a bit, by the way. So this is one of those maps, in which I kind of liked for some time. But then, like, usually I don't like a map and then it grows on me. And in this case, it was the opposite. I kind of liked it in the beginning, but have come to dislike it. And I'll tell you why. The reason for that is that you don't have a big enough surface of attack on your opponent's base, I would say. You have, like, this passage over here, one over here, and maybe, like, if you kill this guy, then maybe you can attack from this side too. But generally, you have basically two entrances to your opponent's base, and this thing blocks the rest of it. So this is obviously a rework of the original Greenway, and in that sense, the rework I would say is successful. Like, this map is much better than the original version. By the way, Anterias lost his Nazgul a bit of a. He was too confident with his off-host, Nazgul handling ability over there. So this map is a lot better than the original, like miles better. But I still don't enjoy playing on it that much because usually it becomes pretty campy. Not in this game though. In this game it has been pretty open, pretty like they're playing the macro game pretty successfully so far, I would say. And another map, just to go on a tangent here and not commentating on whatever is happening on the map, but some other stuff. Another map that I really liked in the beginning was Ultala, but I don't like that now either, because for basically similar reasons. The layout of the map is really nice. Ultala is the map with the in the Rune region with the runic kind of fortress in the middle of it, and so that map used to be a lot bigger in testing, in beta testing, but then based on the feedback rather of testers, it was kind of made smaller. But that has kind of taken away from the map. Like, if you watch the beta casting game on the official Age of the Ring YouTube channel between Assyrian and Nidhogger, you'll understand what I'm talking about. I feel like that version of Ultala was a lot better, even though I haven't played on it, but just based on the visuals, it looked a lot better. Because this one can be camped too easily because it has like hills in between the sides and the fortress in the middle, and if you just put something, some kind of statue or like a caravan, if you're playing Harad, in one of the valleys, then you can camp that position, choke the position too easily. Anyhow, so back to the game, and done with the ramblings. Snens has gotten his tier 3, which is Freezing Rain, and this is also very standard, again, 7-3-1 meta. In 7-3-1, Wildmen didn't feed enough compared to their damage and their overall performance. And so, yeah, I got distracted there a bit. So in most cases, more often than not, you would get your Freezing Rain much sooner than your opponent would get his own weather ability. So you could make use of this fully and entirely. And that's what Snens is doing here. And but also in this case, I would say it doesn't really matter. But by the way, Wildman feeding has been fixed. Like they feed properly now, so it wouldn't matter here anyway because Anterias has gone for the right hand side tier 2, and it's pretty far away from the weather power. So it's probably gonna go for the Felby summon for his tier 3. But yeah, it's not looking good for him so far. His economy is kind of alright, also supported with the lumber mills. He's also gone for Easterling Garrison and upgraded it to level 2, so he's planning to go for the Easterling archers. But yeah, so on the other hand, I would say Snens is in a much better position. Obviously, it shows even in his even just by numbers, you can see that he's in a better position. Not even looking at the map, and he's upgraded this Dunlanding Longhouse to level 3, from which again you get access to Dunish Outriders as well as Dunlanding Huskarls. And this you could get Outriders from level 2 if I remember well. But now you need to, spend the money and wait until you get your longhouse to level 3. And he's got 2 longhouses level 3. He is completely abandoning the Urks in this game, and we'll see if that plays. If this is the correct play, basically. Yeah. So back to Isengard a bit. So obviously the Wildman strategy as a whole was nerfed from multiple angles even. And so besides Axthor is obviously Wolfgar is a bit more expensive now. Also his Huskarl summon is only at level 8 from the Crow banner. And also his leadership was nerfed in a way that initially he gives you 33% damage, and only at level 5 does he give his full 50% buff. So as you can see, Snens is, once again I'm going to mention that Snens is living in the 731 meta. This is something you would see in 731, and a lot of his units are level 5 actually. That's funny. So basically just an army entirely composed of Wildmen and Dunish units, supported by Huskarls, essentially. And he's also got Cav, supported by Sharko, although Sharko himself obviously does not grant any leadership or stats to the Dunish Outriders. He would need to have, Wolfgar, mounted to give these guys leadership, but Wolfgar is obviously a lot more effective supporting this huge clump of Wildman plus Huskarl battalions over here. Okay, so Isengard is up to his full CP limit, 1000, and he very correctly focuses down the drummer troll. And Anterias is built to catapult on the fortress, which is also the correct choice. That helps you defend quite a lot easier. But yeah, so Wolfgar is level 4. For some reason, I constantly want to call him Wolfgarl, and that's, I think, because there are also Huskarl on the field. Anyhow, so he obviously has his Dark Wings, Dark Wars ability as well, which is very good against kind of target units, meaning like heroes or any other single units is what I meant. He's got his economy set up. He's got Siege Works on the field, and I feel like he's kind of confident. He wants to finish the game, but I would say that Anterias' army, generally speaking, is looking pretty decent. I don't think he's in such a bad position. In fact, I wouldn't say he's in a bad position at all. His Snens' situation is obviously better, but Anterias is definitely not out of this yet. With the correct plays and with the help of maybe if Snens miscontrols here and there, then Anterias can definitely get right back into this game. So he's upgraded one of his Orcish strongholds to level 2, presumably because he's got Black Orcs on the field. Although I can't see which one. Or maybe, yeah, probably Snens took down the one that was level 2. So Snens has got 2 battalions of Huskarls, and the rest is just Wildman units. He's also got 1 battalion of Wildman, Dunish Axemen rather. And Anterias is trying to push out of his base, which once again I feel like is the correct decision. He's got two battalions of Easterling archers. He's got a pretty varied army composition. He's got orcs, Easterlings, warriors of Khand, or however they're called, Varyags of Khand. And look at this. So this is one of the new features of Mordor in 8.0. You get a fortress upgrade. One of the fortress upgrades, yeah, this one, first of the 9, allows you to mount, one of the Nazgul or any number of them, as many as you want, on a Fell Beast. And on a Fell Beast, they only have one ability, which is Screech. And the upgrade itself, if I'm not mistaken, it costs 1,500. But yeah, so this can be a very, very effective way of controlling the map. I gotta say that I don't use this often. I don't use my Nazgul on Fell Beast too often because they're very effective on, just mounted on their horses as well. So this is, once again, this isn't some kind of universal strategy, it's more situational. But yeah, in certain situations it can certainly help, and especially against harassment, like if the opponent is trying to harass you with cavalry, then obviously any kind of flying unit is of great help. So the early armory is kind of paying its dividends right now because Snens has upgraded cruel blades as well as blackened plate, right? Yes. And I noticed that the Dunish Outriders already have the blade upgrades. All right, so let's see. I don't think Snens has much to deal with the Fell Beast, and this is one of the problems of going with a full, Wildman plus Doomlanding strategy, especially in this matchup, and generally speaking as well. They don't really have a range. Well, unless you go for the archers, but at this point, Snens in fact does not have any archers on the field, so that's kind of biting him in the butt right now. He's probably building archers though. Let's see. Yes, he's got 2 battalions of landing longbowmen with fire, and this is the tier 3 summon from Anterias, which isn't gonna do anything. But despite that, Anterias is making a big comeback over here, pushing Snens all over back to his base. Let me just lower the sounds a bit because I feel like it's interfering a little, just a little. Like this, maybe. Yeah, so let's resume. Yeah, so Anterias, as I said, is making a very successful push right now. I like his army composition. That's what I'm gonna tell you, because he's mixing up orcs, as I said, with Easterlings, and also putting some Carnage units in there. So that's pretty nice to see. He's probably not gonna be able to take down the Longhouse. But yeah, so Snens on the other hand has 2 ballistas on the field, which obviously can be quite effective, not only in dealing with the enemy's buildings, but also their archers, especially if the archers are clumped, which Mordor goes for clumping quite a lot in games. Yeah, so Anterias has upgraded his troll cage to level 3, which is absolutely the correct decision, because attack trolls, I mean, come on, olog-hai rather, they're so freaking good, and their splash is so good as well. And this is one of the things that I mentioned earlier in the game, like Isengard does not deal with this type of units too well. In this case, Snens is going to be able to take this olog-hai down, most likely because it doesn't have much cover. It was kind of sent on a suicide mission for this level 3 farm. But yeah, so the Nazgul, the mounted, sorry, not mounted, but the Nazgul on the Fell Beast uses his Screech ability to get out of that situation. damn, the more I speak English, the longer I speak English, the more I start making mistakes. Anyhow, so Anterias is about 10 power points away from his tier 4 ability. And he probably does want to go for it. Usually, you know, I would say, people have different approaches to this. By the way, he also has Witch King on the field. Yeah, so people have different approaches to the power point thingy. In the sense of, some guys go for a lot of tier 1s and 2 and 3. Some other guys go in like almost a straight line from tier 1 to tier 4. And I feel like in this situation, going for the Fires of Orodruin is a correct decision, because Snens isn't really, you know, splitting, god damn it, his army that much. But rather is playing with one big clump of an army, and Witch King is about to wreak some havoc on top of them. And this is when Orcs would have been so much better. I don't know, man. I feel like even though Snens once again uses Freezing Rain, and this entire army doesn't really have leadership, as well as is under debuff, I don't know. He doesn't really have. I would say he doesn't have anything to do with either the olog-hai or the Witch King. Like, the combination of these two units, both with splash damage, you know, area of effect damage, can be very, very powerful. And on that note, I'm gonna take some time to talk about just how powerful Mortar feels on the patch. You know, in the previous patch, excuse me, in the previous patch, Mortar used to struggle so damn much in certain matchups. Most prominently, I remember just how difficult it was to play as Mortar against Woodland Realm, especially in the beginning of the game. That matchup was basically impossible to play in any way whatsoever. But now I would say that Mortar feels at least alright in most matchups, and on top of it, it feels great in certain matchups. And especially if it doesn't die in the beginning too much, and it gets to at least this mid game, especially late game, then Mortar is a very powerful and very scary faction to deal with. Yeah, so Anterias does indeed go for the Fires of Orodruin. Yeah, if he spams a bit more olog-hai, I feel like. Did he use it? Yes, and he used it on the production, which I'm not sure is the greatest of ideas, because what he got here was literally just one level 3 farm, and this is mostly against troops. You know, this is mostly against units instead of buildings. And yeah, as you can see the result of that here, even the level 2 clan stunning didn't go down. But he did have the olog-hai over here, which could finish it off, but he doesn't have it anymore. The Nazgul is level 9. Yeah, so the Nazgul has been very successful in this match. But that's primarily because Snens, I don't feel like going for full, you know, dual landing. The strategy is viable anymore. Like, they can be a solid addition to your Isengard army, but just spamming only them is probably not the best of ideas anymore. And, you know, Stance just realized that, probably, and has built an Uruk pit over here. And if he had gone for Uruk pit, just Olog-hai units earlier, I feel like he would have finished this game much earlier. But then, by going with the dinner strategy, he gave Anterias a lot more time. And yeah, Anterias' economy is definitely well set up right now. He's got a bunch of lumber mills with the freezing rain pass, so his units aren't going to be debuffed nearly as much. And he's going for that olog-hai strategy. The Witch King is level 4. I wouldn't put Witch King on Fellbeast, to be quite honest with you. Because his, like, this thing, Caran-Lambar, is just so good. So good, especially against the playstyle that Snens is showing in this game, which is like a one big clump of units running around. So yeah, two olog-hai over here are trying to take down this level 3 long cows. And level 3 buildings tend to have the same armor set as the fortress, so that's not going to be easy. But olog-hai are very powerful units, and they also have siege damage, obviously, so they did take it down. But they now they need to run for their lives because they don't have cover. Snens has been using Shark with the Dunish Outriders all this match, and it's a bit funny because, you know, Shark obviously does not buff them in any way whatsoever. Yeah, and obviously Witch King is going to make light work of this cavalry, no problem at all. And he's also gone for Moloch, which, once again, I would say is the correct decision. I'm really liking Anterias' thought process during the duration of this entire match. Not so much that of Snens. That's not to say Snens is, a bad player or anything. Like, by no means is Snens a bad player. He's actually pretty good. But yeah, I think he just hasn't read the changelog, to be quite honest with you. He doesn't really know that this whole thing doesn't work anymore. And that's what's proving to be the difference in this game. Yeah, so Mordor, after getting his tier 4, has gone for is switching to the left-hand side of the Palantir, and has gone for Trackers of Kirthungol, which is like a reworked version of the previous shades, you know, the shades that Mordor used to have previously. And has also gone for he is gathering all evil to him, which is a summon of three battalions of Haradrim raiders. I want to say Harondor, but that's actually Haradrim. Moloch may go down, but Anterias is controlling him and manages to take him away. And Anterias is attacking from two sides here, crucially, because while Snens' army is busy dealing with this entire thing, he's harassing with two pikeman battalions, which might have been a joke if you were playing another mod. But I like the fact that in Age of the Ring, pikes aren't like Shark goes down, Witch King has access to open in the name of Mordor ability, which deals pretty heavy damage to structures. And yeah, Wolfgar ran across the entire map to track down Moloch. And if he managed to finish him off, that's going to be pretty epic. But Anterias uses his tier 3 summon and he also blocks the path of Wolfgar to save his Moloch. That was a very clever play by Anterias over there. And yeah, so he's trying to take down the level 3 armory over there. May lose his builder over here, but at this point of the game, when your economy is this advanced, losing one builder, you know, just having to spend 500 resources is absolutely no issue at all. Yeah, and Mordor has, yeah, as I say that, on that note, you know, you can see that Mordor has a whole lot of resources, has full eco, and on the other hand, Snens has gone for Wrath of Caradras, which I feel like is the correct choice, because the other ability, kind of like the Lightning Strikes, I'm not sure what its official name is primarily against buildings. I would say it's entirely against buildings. It really doesn't deal much damage to units. And this one is super effective against the clumped army. And against heroes too, crucially, because since Snens hasn't gone for Lurtz all this time, he doesn't really have good hero killing options in this game, which might prove to be the difference eventually, because the Mordor heroes are leveling up. Like Witch King is already level 7 the last time I checked on him. And yeah, so Snens really doesn't have much to deal with him. Gorbog is level 10 as well. All of his abilities are on autocast except this one. Probably because this is not an active ability. And this one isn't an active ability. So all of his actual abilities are on autocast. Yeah, so Snens has gone for 2 Orc Pits. And finally is trying to make the switch from dual ending units to olog-hai. And yeah, so Witch King over here is level 7. And obviously this cavalry isn't gonna be, isn't gonna be able to deal with him at all. Yeah, so a bit of a reset on the map, I would say. So let's fast forward just a little bit until the players kind of amass their armies once again and go on the offensive. So over here we've got an engagement. And this is what I'm talking about. Like, if you look at the Isengard army, it's not even bad. He's got like olog-hai, he's got, and while I say that Snens uses his Wrath of Caradhras, but he completely wastes it. Like okay, maybe not completely. Maybe he did take out like 4 or 5 battalions, but ideally you would want to use this on Witch King because it also has a slow on heroes to try to take him down. But yeah, that's a bit of an unfortunate usage of it, I would say. And over here, you can see that if as Mordor, if you go for he is gathering all evil to him, you gain access to 2 more units. Like these 2 units are unlocked. First is Golden Cataphracts, which is horseman unit, a cavalry rather, and also crucially Khan Borainax, which are kind of elite, which is kind of like elite infantry, and it's so damn good. It's these guys, Axemen, and their first ability is plus 50 damage and immunity. Notice that this is not resistance, that this is full immunity to knockback and trample for 20 seconds, which is pretty decent ability. Yeah, like Anterias is absolutely wrecking Snens right now with the mounted Nazgul. I feel like this is probably the first replay, the first game I have seen that mounting the Nazgul has proven to be incredibly effective. As you can see, both of them are level 10. And if I'm not mistaken, if I didn't miss anything, then Anterias didn't lose the mounted Nazgul even once, because as the Nazgul were getting low health, he could always, like, he had his out of jail card, the screech thingy, and since Snens has neither Ugluk nor Sermon on the field, then he cannot counteract Fear and Terror. So yeah, another reset on the map, and Anterias has finally upgraded the Morgul upgrade, and has access to the Legion of Morgul right now. But I feel like the standstill, like, is probably partly due to the fact that the players are a little bit tired at this point of the game. Like the game has been going on for a while right now, but also Freezing Rain is in effect, and Anterias probably doesn't want to take an engagement under those conditions, which is pretty smart. Like, you look at this Isengard army, it looks pretty good, right? But then you ask yourself, how is it planning to take down Mordor heroes? And the answer is no how. He literally doesn't have anything to deal with Mordor heroes over here. And Anterias is switching to Barricade. That's probably because, like, he could have had the Shelob summon with the spiders at this point. But Wuxing is level 9, by the way. I wonder if we're gonna see his ultimate ability. This is my hour. That would be epic. Yeah, so once again, the Doomed Cavalry is getting wrecked. Just absolutely destroyed by this olog-hai. And it's only with the help of Sharko that Snens manages to take down the Olog. And this is what I was talking about. So Anterias went for the Barricade. And the reason for that is that he wanted to use his own darkness, because Barricade leads to darkness. You know, he kind of... how would you say that? Basically, he didn't go for the Shelob summon to instead go for Mordor Darkness. And now, Snens seems to be in trouble. I don't even think Snens played this game, badly. I think he played actually pretty decently. But his strategy choice was just so not suited to what Anterias went for. And yeah, as you can see, Anterias is completely dominating the map right now, attacking from multiple angles, has his heroes leveled up. Moloch has level 5, which means that he has access to his leap ability, which he can use right now. And yeah, Anterias is fully switching to the Easterling strategy. This is like the super scary and powerful late game Mordor stuff. And he's also got his. And Witch King uses his ultimate. This is my hour. That was pretty good. Although he didn't really have that many units near him, but I feel like Anterias is already feeling that he's won the game. And it's probably the case, you know. He can probably finish the fortress with like one olog-hai or even just his heroes. Or maybe he can wait for the Wraiths of Ring summon in. Really, there's not much Snens can do at this point. Mordor has darkness all over the map, which is like a global buff, obviously, on all of his units. As you can see, they have this glowing effect, which means they're getting buffed for stats. Yeah, I feel like this is basically the end of the game. That's why I'm fast forwarding just a little bit. Anterias can literally just use the Wraiths of Wings, and they will probably finish the fortress because the fortress does not have the armor upgrade. And Witch King himself can use his. I don't think, by the way, Anterias has probably forgotten about this ability, Open in the Name of Mordor. This deals pretty high damage to buildings, and in a recent Mordor game, I forgot it too. So, yeah, so he finally summons Wraiths on Wings and is going for the fortress. And yeah, it's probably the end of the game. He's also got one Olog on the fortress, so this is probably going to be GG. Let's see. Yeah, Snens lost his fortress. But yeah, so overall, I would say, even despite the fact that Snens lost the game, he didn't play badly. Once again, I'm going to mention that. He played pretty well. So well done to him. A GG to him. And to have a little small spoiler, Anterias won this match 2-0 and advances to the second round. But yeah, best of luck to Snens in the next tournament. And in the end, as a conclusion, moral of the story, guys, read the changelog. That's it for this cast, and yeah, as I said, I'll try to cast as many of the good games in this tournament as possible. And yeah, see you guys on the next one.